Hi there, hope you're having a pleasant day wherever you may be. I'm in a town that if you wanted to visit not too long ago, you would have needed scuba gear. I'm at St. Thomas, Nevada. St. Thomas is located about an hour and a half north of the Las Vegas Strip, near a town called Overton. And it's actually within the boundaries of the Lake Mead National Recreational Area, Lake Mead being a very important part of the history of this town. So, what exactly is St. Thomas? Well, in case you couldn't figure it out, it is a ghost town, but it has a very unique history. During its timeline, it was abandoned, settled again, abandoned again, submerged, and then sort of rediscovered, you could say. Back in 1865, some Mormon settlers, led by a gentleman named Thomas Smith, decided that here, the confluence of the Muddy and Virgin Rivers, was a good place to start a town. And in the ultimate humble move, he named it St. Thomas. The Mormon settlers at the time believed they were either in the Utah or Arizona territories. Around this time in the U.S., the boundaries of states and territories in the West was a little murky. And between the time period of 1865 and 1870, Congress actually readjusted the boundaries of nearby Nevada, where by 1870, St. Thomas was actually in Nevada. Now, in typical government fashion, Nevada came to St. Thomas and said, "Hey, you owe us back taxes for the years that you've been settled here." Well, the settlers decided to take a vote and abandoned the town. But not everybody left. A few people did remain. Over the next decade, the population of the town, which had dwindled to almost nothing, rebounded. And it appears that the late 1800s, early 1900s was probably the most prosperous period for this town. This is when it seems like most of the action took place. Most of the remnants of the buildings appear to be from that early 1900s period. This was considered to be somewhat of an oasis. There were a lot of trees that lined the streets. They had developed water systems to irrigate the farms and provide water to all the businesses and houses. Now, there's lots of evidence of that because most of these buildings are pretty much just foundations, and the tallest structure remaining is the cistern that used to be the water source for that particular building. All seemed to be going pretty well for the town until the early 1930s when the Boulder Dam project was approved and completed, damming the nearby Colorado River. Now, even though that dam is over 50 miles away, the man-made lake that was created, Lake Mead, was set to inundate this region that the town sat on. Those that aren't familiar, the dam is better known today as Hoover Dam. So once again, the town was abandoned and the town was submerged in upwards of 70 feet of Lake Mead water. For decades, people would recreate without even knowing that there was a town underneath. Over the course of the second half of the 20th century, the level of the lake did fluctuate, and at times the town was exposed, and that would sort of prompt reunions from either people that lived here or the relatives of people that lived here to come and have celebrations. Eventually, the level of the lake dropped enough to where it's pretty much permanently exposed now, and now we have this cool trail to check out the ruins. As one would expect, over the course of being submerged for more or less 70 years or so, there's not much left to the buildings. It's mostly just foundations. There are some basic walls that are actually probably part of the foundations, but not much else is left of the buildings. Of the remains of the buildings that are available to see and walk and see up close are like an ice cream parlor. There's the foundation of a garage. Behind me here is one of several houses that you can see the foundations. The largest one appears to be the schoolhouse. That's a pretty big foundation and some steps you can see. There's also the foundations of the post office, a hotel, which the hotel, Calvin Coolidge stayed there. So we're in the presence of a former president. There's also the general store right next to those. So there's several buildings that you can see. You can't really make out what they were just off the foundations, but it's still really cool to know. To visit here, it is a part of the Lake Mead National Recreational Area, which does mean that it has a fee to get in here, which is all the more reason to purchase the America the Beautiful Pass, which I made a video about a couple years ago, which I think it's a great investment. So this is all the more reason to purchase it and continue to see other ones for the year. To get here, it is near the Lake Mead entrance near the town of Overton. And then it's a quick turn off onto a dirt road, which is about 2.5 miles or so, that pretty much any car can do. It wasn't that bad. And then eventually it leads to the Trailhead, which is a 2.5 mile loop, it says. And there's plenty of kiosks to read. What's interesting is some of the kiosks don't seem necessarily related to what the building they're next to. It seems to be about 50-50. Some of them are, some of them aren't, but still interesting to read, gives you an idea of what life in the town was like, and provides a lot of information. Overall, the hike is pretty flat, but the time of year I'm here, it's actually kind of nice today. It's about 50 degrees, but I would imagine that in the summer it's probably really hot, so keep that in mind when you come out here. One of the things that's kind of cool is that evidence that it really was submerged for all those years is all the little shells that you see on the ground. It's like, we're in the middle of the desert. Why would I be seeing shells? But this was all underwater. It makes sense. Well, that does it for this one. Thanks for joining me on this little trip to the abandoned town of St. Thomas. I hope you found it interesting. I sure did, because how many towns have a history as complicated as this one? But I hope you found it interesting and entertaining, and I hope it encourages you to come out here and check it out for yourself. With that said, I guess I'll see you on the next one.